Welcome back to another Colorado Kings of War battle report. So I played a pretty big game here with a friend here in town. Got to play another in-person game instead of playing online with Universal Battle. And this one has a bunch of humans in it. So we've got the Kingdoms of Men facing off against my Brotherhood. So this first picture is the deployment for Kingdoms of Men. This is my first time playing at 2,250 points. And it's just a few hundred more points, but it definitely felt like there was a lot more on the table, and it also, as a result, makes it feel a little bit more restricted on space. But this is starting off with deployment. So the guy playing Kingdoms of Men, he doesn't have a lot of big creatures or no hordes in the army, not a lot of magic items. It's a very simple looking list at first, but there were a lot of things I actually really liked about it and how it played, which you'll see in the pictures coming up. But he's got 4 units or 4 regiments of foot guard, which are the elite infantry unit for Kingdoms of Men. They have a 3-up melee and a 5-up defense, and then you've got the same version of them, which is the knights. So you've basically got knights on foot and knights on horses. He had 4 regiments of each. So that's 8 regiments with a 3-up melee and 5-up defense, which is pretty strong. Then also on the field here, you'll see on the hill, he's got a regiment of bows and a siege artillery. He's got a general on the, I don't know if it's called winged beast or what it's called in the Kingdoms of Men. Tucked over next to the knights on the far left, there's another general just on horse. And then he's got another knight regiment and foot guard regiment there. And behind them, next to the house, is a mage. And if I remember correctly, the mage had fireball and lightning, and the item that lets you use 2 spells in 1 turn once per game. So on the other half of the board are the rest of his units. You can see there's 2 more units of foot guard and 2 more of knights. In the trees, he's got another regiment of bows, and there are 2 characters next to that regiment of bows. There's another mage with fireball and lightning. I think they might have also had Bane Chant. I can't remember. Maybe it was the new item, the loot. And then behind the bows is a standard bearer on a horse. And swinging around to the other side of the table, here's the first half of my deployment. I've got a Forsaken Beast up on the hill. He's got Ensnare and Regeneration. I've got a hero next to the horde there. He is a hunter with the wings of the honey maze. And I'll give a little just feedback on what I liked about these units as I go through this. Next to the hunter is a horde of spearmen. So this side for me, I'm learning that the beast and the horde of spears are really good at holding a flank. And the new combination with Clash of Kings 2018, there was an upgrade to the Brotherhood list. And so we have a special rule in the Brotherhood that is Valiant. It works the same way as Rallying, where it gives you +1 nerve, but it's not Rallying, so it actually stacks with Rallying. And what I found out is if you have Inspiring, you also have Valiant. So what that means is behind the Spear Horde, I've got an Adjutant, which is a standard bearer. He gives Inspiring. Because of the upgrade from Clash of Kings 2018, since he has Inspiring, he also gives Valiant. So he's giving +1 to Nerve and Inspiring. And in addition to that, I gave him the Banner of the Griffin. So I really like this combination because just by himself, he's giving +2 to Nerve and Inspiring, and it's like 70 points, 75 points, something like that, which works out really well for me. Across from the spears, I've got another horde of infantry, and these are Martyrs, which are the infantry unit that has regeneration, and they're fearless. So they've got a -22 Nerve, and behind them, I've got a Devoted. Now this is another nice upgrade from Clash of Kings 2018, where there's a new spell that good armies can take called Martyr's Prayer. Kind of appropriate for a martyr horde, but what the prayer does, it's a heal 7 spell, but any damage that he heals, he takes on himself. The trick is that any damage he takes in that way does not cause a nerve check. So he can do it all game long, take a ton of wounds on himself, and it's never going to cause a nerve check and cause him to go away. The opponent, though, just then has to basically breathe on him and do 1 wound, and he's going to be gone. But until that happens, if I can keep him hidden, he can just keep healing all game long. So in addition to having the spell, I gave him the Inspiring Talisman. And now again, because he has Inspiring, he also has Valiant. So this is another great combo, because now he's giving +1 to nerve, he's giving Inspiring, and he's got this heal 7 spell. And again, it's like 85 points altogether for all of that. So with these two heroes next to each other, I'm getting +3 nerve and Inspiring, and then the heal 7. I think this is a really awesome combination, and I'm excited to see how well it helps my infantry units especially. So moving on from the deployment, though, you see I got a couple of griffins behind the martyrs there. Those are representing the Order of the Forsaken for me. And then in front of the watchtower is my general, and he is an exemplar Forsaker. And here's the rest of my deployment. I actually used some herd allies in this list, which is new for me. I haven't done that before. A couple of nice things, a couple of things I could see I could do better here. But so what I've got here is a horde of Spirit Walkers. These are the fearless unit with a ton of attacks, but they have pretty low defense. Behind them are a regiment of Eagles, and then the 2 knight units I have here, it's a regiment of the Order of Redemption. And these are the elite knights for the Brotherhood. They have regeneration, they give Inspiring, which again means they also gain Valiant. And then I've got a regiment of the Order of the Abyssal Hunt. The Abyssal Hunt are a really cool unit. They can be hard to use because they're only defense 4 on knights. But instead of having Thunder's Charge 2, they go down to Thunder's Charge 1 and have Crushing Strength 1, which is a nice offset. They also gain Vicious against monsters and have Fury. So they're angry knights, but they have less armor. Behind each of the knight regiments, I've got 2 troops of Beast Packs, which are from the herd list. I like these better as chaff than my Brotherhood Reconnoiterers, because they're actually 30 points less, but they are faster. They're speed 10 instead of speed 9. They're nimble, and they have Pathfinder. They have a lower defense and don't hit as well, but they're chaff. So they're there to be able to be positioned exactly where I want them and to die when I need them to get out of the way. If they can hit something, great, but that's really not what they're there for in my case. So I thought this would be a better fit, especially since I've got this whole Griffin theme to my army. These are lions that I have on the base, so a beast pack just makes more sense anyways. And I'll just input here before I explain the first turn of movement. It has been about a year since I've played Kings of War, and jumping back into it, man, I have missed this game. This is a fantastic game, and it was just so easy to pick the rules back up and jump back into it. I had to get caught up on some of the changes from Clash of Kings, but other than that, it was really just easy to pick back up and fun to jump back into. And just throughout this game, I kept thinking, man, like this game's so fun. Why haven't I been playing this more? I mean, life gets in the way, and we get busy with other things. And but it was just a ton of fun playing this game. But in our haste and setting things up and getting going, we forgot to like even roll for a scenario and figure out what we were doing. We just started rolling dice and measuring things. So the scenario just wound up being kill because we didn't pick a scenario, so we thought we would just beat it out here. And then in rolling for first turn, I think I won the roll here, and I'm always going to take the chance, almost always at least, to go first, because I have no shooting and only one spell in my army, and it's a heal spell. So I really just want to get across the board and get into combat, and he's got some shooting, so I'm not going to be able to avoid that, so I might as well just start off the game and get across the board. So what I've got here are my knight units moving up. Now, when I had deployed the troop units, the chaff there from the beast packs, I had set them behind the knights, and that was intentional because they have faster movement than the knights. So I can kind of move the knights up and position them where I want and get them as far as I need to get them. And then the chaff can still move through them and get up ahead of them to block any chargers. So I tried to be a little bit tricky here with my position of the chaff. I put the beast packs at an angle. The idea here is I've had games where the chaff will take a wound or two and they end up getting wavered, and now my knights are just stuck sitting behind them and I can't do anything. So if the troops are just facing forward and that happens, I get stuck, and I found that frustrating. And I thought I'd try this out by putting them at an angle. They're either going to get charged and die, or get shot and die, which is fine, that gets them out of the way. But if they happen to not die, if they happen to get wavered, then I can still go back. And they are so fast, they're speed 10, that going back is 5 inches. And you can do that through your own units. So my idea here is that if that happens, because they're at an angle, I can go back 5 inches and get out of the way of the knights, and the knights can charge forward. So really great in theory. We'll see how it works. Next to them are my herd allies, the Spirit Walkers. The herd have Pathfinder, so I have no problem going up into the forest. This gives me an advantage if he decides to charge me first with his knights. He's going to be hindered, and then I'm going to be in range to charge something else next turn because they're speed 6. So behind them are the Eagles, and I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens on both sides of the board to see where I want to send them. They're really good for flank charging or maybe going after those ranged units. And then next to the Spirit Walker horde, next to the forest, there is my general, the Exemplar Forsaker. So on the other side of the board, I'm moving up my infantry hordes, the Martyrs on the left and the Spearmen on the right. I put the Spearmen on the right because I want to try to protect my flank and keep those knights from swinging around and collapsing my line. And then they've also got the Beast over there. The Beast, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, he's got Ensnare and he's got Regeneration. So he's really built to be a wall. Beasts only have 8 attacks hitting on 4s, so it's not like they're going to take out whole units in one charge by themselves, but they're not going to go away either. So he's there to help protect the flank as well. So I don't have as much going on in the middle as he does, and this will affect the game. I've got the Martyr hordes, which can be very resilient, again, with all the plus to nerve and the heal. And then I've got my Order of the Forsaken behind them there, just like the Eagles, just kind of waiting to see what he does in his next turn or two and see where I can take advantage of some flank charges, hopefully, or something like that. And then my Hunter is on the far right next to the Beast. He's got the wings, and so this is another one I'll make a comment on. I have really tried to take this guy out of the list, or at least tried not to give him the wings, but he is just so useful this way. Every game I have dedicated him to harass ranged units, to take out war machines and that sort of thing. He's only got 4 attacks, but he's crushing 2, he hits on 3s, and when you're fighting most ranged units and war machines, you don't need a lot. If nothing else, he can do a wound and lock them down from shooting, and he proves to be pretty resilient because, again, ranged units don't usually attack very well back, so he can just lock down units like that. So that's my intention here. I'm looking at those bowmen in the trees, and I'm thinking about, depending on what he does next turn, I'm thinking about charging them just so I can shut down their shooting. So now it's the Kingdoms of Men turn, and he decides to take advantage of some charges here. He flies the general. He has enough space over there, which I wasn't really trying to avoid, but I probably could have done a little bit better job there and denied him a charge. But he flies his general over to go after my Abyssal Hunt Knights. These are the Knights with defense 4, so he can do some damage there. But a hero on a Griffin like that, or on Winged Beast, he's a monster. And this is what Abyssal Hunt are made to kill. So I'm okay with this. I'm thinking we can fight it out here and see who wins this. But he takes that charge, and then the Foot Guard there, the regiment, they have a flank charge on my chaff, which again, that's totally fine. That's what they're there for. Hopefully I can then squeeze off a charge with my knights after he kills them, because there's pretty little doubt that he's going to kill that unit. The knights all hold their position. He's just waiting for me to move up a little further and do some more shooting, hopefully whittle me down before he gets his charges off. He does no movement with the foot guard either on the right side by the house, just everybody holding their position, waiting for me to come across so he can whittle me down. And on the other side, it's pretty much the same thing. Everything just really holds the position there, waiting for me to move up a little bit more so he can get some charges off. He's not in danger of being charged yet by anything, so he's going to take a round of shooting before he really starts to move anything. He does move the mage in front of the house that's on the horse there. He's one to get some shots off with the lightning bolt. And with his shooting, he ends up doing 3 wounds on the beast pack there, and rolls enough nerve to get them off the table. So it looks like I'm going to be losing both of my chaff units this turn. And if I remember correctly, everything else pretty much shot at my spearman horde. Again, I think he's looking to collapse my flank and get his knights moving around behind me, which is smart. But that's a big horde of infantry with a lot of inspiring and plus to nerve. So he ends up doing 5 wounds between the archers and the spells. I think both mages he had did lightning bolts, and only comes up with 5 wounds. That's not going to be enough to waver them, even unless he gets boxcars, which he does not. So not too much of a problem there so far. Forgot to mention that he also charged his general on horse into the flank of my chaff unit, which is plenty of attacks to take care of a low defense chaff unit, and as you can see he does. And then he just decides to move back with both his units and prepare for the counter charge from my knights. His general does a couple of wounds, but not enough to waver or do any real damage to them, so then he just has to bounce back an inch. And here's the top of my second turn, and I've got some more movement up with my infantry. I move my Forsaken Beast just up into the forest, so now we can see each other. Again, I'm not too worried about a charge from him. He's going to be hindered, and I have Ensnare and Regen. So I think I can take a hit from the Knights, at least that's what I'm hoping. We'll see. And then my Spearmen are next to him. And I went ahead and used the spell. This is my first time using the Martyr's Prayer. You can see the guy I'm using as a devoted behind my Martyr Horde. He's now got 4 wounds on him, and the spears are down to 1. So he soaks 4 of their wounds, and I already love this spell. I mean, that's just a really fantastic thing. And again, 4 wounds on a devoted could easily kill him, but wounds taken from the prayer do not cause a nerve check, so I just got to keep him out of sight. And so that's this side of the board. And this is more a look at the center of the board. There's a lot going on the left that I'll show in a sec. So I wasn't quite in range to do any charges with my Spirit Walker Horde because he wasn't all the way up in his deployment. He was back just a little bit, so I needed a little bit more distance. So I just moved him up a little bit further in the forest. Again, if he's going to charge me, he's going to have to come in the forest and be hindered. That also gives me space to move up the Eagles. And this puts them just inside the forest, which Eagles can do because they're a flying unit, but they have Pathfinder, which is another great combination. So I just get them behind the Spirit Walker Horde because they're large cavalry. They have height 3, so they can see over them. So now I've got a lot of options depending on what he does in his turn to do some counter charges and maybe get a flank or something like that. Same thing with the Order of the Forsaken. They're not in the forest, but I just moved them up and positioned them to be able to go whichever direction I need them to, right or left. Now, my general, I moved over to the left side here. I'll show you in a second what's happening on the left side, but I started to think I might need a little more help over on that side. He's got his 2 generals and stuff, so instead of keeping my general in the center, I figure I've got these 2 flying regiments, they'll be able to do this. I've got 2 hordes, so I move him over to the left so that he can help out on that side. And here's what I'm talking about. So things weren't quite what I was thinking I would do here. I played it a little more safe than I thought I would do. So the regiment that I have that you can see all the way at the bottom of the picture, that's my Order of Redemption. They're a very strong unit, good chargers. But the Foot Guard, again, are an elite infantry unit. They've got defense 5, and they've got a 14-16 nerve. So I have a chance of breaking them in a charge. And now I'm kind of thinking it might have been worth going for. I didn't feel in a hurry, though. And the risk there is if I didn't break them, then his knights would get a charge off on me, and it would be a double charge, and my knights would be in trouble then. So I decided not to take the risk and just back them up a little bit. And now that I've got my general moving over here, he can help out a little bit. The Abyssal Hunt, go ahead and charge his general, and it looks like they did 4 wounds. You can see his dice behind the general there. So, good hit. I mean, 4 wounds. I was hoping for more, but they're counter-charging, so they lose their Thunderous Charge. One thing that we did incorrectly in this game was that, so I guess in Clash of Kings 2017, they took out a few artifacts. They took out the Medallion of Life, which is regeneration, the Ensorcelled Armor, which gives you +1 armor, and another one that I'm not remembering. They've brought these items back, but they just kind of restricted them a little bit, so they're not as powerful. And with the Medallion of Life, the new rule for it, it's back in the game, but it can only be taken by heroes with the individual special rule. So a hero like this, that is a hero monster, cannot take it. Well, he didn't know that, and that was an update from Clash of Kings 2018, so he has the Medallion of Life on his general here. But we just decided that, there's no point in changing the points now, and it used to be legal, so no big deal. So we're just going to play it out. So I did a really good roll on the nerve check here. You can see my 2 red dice on the hill. So I rolled 10, which is a 14 for the general that wavers him. So I'm pretty happy with that hit, with that nerve check, and then hopefully can make the most of it in my next turn. And sorry for the blurry picture here. I was trying to be quick, but I went ahead and decided to take the charge with my hunter into his bowman this turn, and almost forgot about him because he's not painted and he's just sitting in a forest there. But went ahead and charged the bowman, and this is just what he's good at doing. So he charged in, did a wound or 2. He's not going to break them, but he shuts down their shooting. And so if he can stick around for a few turns, keep the shooting out, and hopefully whittle the unit down and break them, or he can fly back out of there and go help out wherever else I need him. But I really, really like this guy for this use. He's just really good at taking out the ranged units. Alright, and here's Kingdoms of Men, turn 2. And he's getting a little more aggressive this turn. So he's taking advantage of some charges and moving up. He, on the far left side, you can see his general is like right up against the edge of the board there. The general is wavering. And if I remember right, the generals on the Kingdoms of Men list don't have Headstrong, which is kind of odd to me, but I guess I'm just used to a lot of things having Headstrong if they're knights or leaders, because that's how the Brotherhood is. But he either doesn't have Headstrong or he doesn't make the roll. And so he decides to back up, and because he's got Fly, he's got Nimble, which now that I'm thinking of it, he shouldn't because he's disordered, and that's another new rule update. Anyway, he moves out of the way, and again has the Medallion of Life, so gets a few wounds back. And so my Abyssal Hunt there take a double charge from his other general that's on a horse, and the Foot Guard regiment. But they only manage a couple of wounds, if I remember right. I might have another picture of it here in a sec. But they all do a double charge. His knights on the top left there, that dice was just to mark the measurement of my knights. He just wanted to make sure he stayed out of my range of charge, but he's getting his guys into range of charging me. And you can see in the forest here in the center, he's charged my Spirit Walker horde. So again, they're hindered coming into the forest there, and the Spirit Walkers are fearless. They have low defense, but they're fearless, and so they're probably going to stick around a turn. So this is a nice move on his part, because his other knights, if the Spirit Walker horde are still there and I don't do something about those knights, he's going to get a flank charge on me, and then my Spirit Walkers are going to go bye-bye. So good move on his part. The bowmen and the siege artillery are just going to take some shots. And then another nice move on his part is the foot guard moving up on the right side of the picture here. They are protecting the flank of his knights. So I would easily have a flank charge from my griffins there, the Order of the Forsaken, if he hadn't done that. Or I could at least do like a double charge with my eagles and Spirit Walker horde, but now I don't have any room to do that. So this is a good placement by his foot guard protecting his knights. And here's the other side of the table, and you can see again he just got really aggressive and went ahead and took the charge on things here. The foot guard unit just moved up. They didn't have enough range to charge, but they're protecting his knights again, denying me from coming around their side or doing anything else there. And then you can see a double charge on my spearmen from his 2 knight regiments. And so there was a knight regiment to the left of his bows and to the right of his bows, and they both came in against my spearmen, which normally would be frightening. I would be guaranteed to lose that horde, except they're both hindered. So I was counting on this. They're both hindered. I've got phalanx because of my spear, so I'm denying any thunderous charge, and he's -1 to hit. So I'm hoping that will give me enough to be able to stick around another turn and hold the flank over here. If not, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble pretty quick. Another really good move by his foot guard on the far right side, he moves them up and faces to the right. And this is going to totally protect the rear side of his knights from my Forsaken Beast. I wouldn't be able to get a charge on the rear of the knights with him, but I could easily move up and turn around and then really cause problems for him from behind. So he knows he can't keep me from getting the flank on his knights, charging them at all, but he's protecting them from me getting around behind him. So I think this is a good move too. And then you can see one of his mages moves up in front of the forest. She wants to get in range to do some fireball, and the bowmen of course stay put because my hunter's in their face and keeping them from shooting. And this picture here is to show what he did with his shooting. So he took both his mages and used fireball on my martyr horde, and I can't remember, I think he might have hit with his siege artillery. I don't know if he could see it or he shot something else, I can't remember, or the bows, but I just remember he dumped a lot of shots into the martyr horde there. You can't quite see the dice maybe, but they took 9 wounds as a result, so that was a pretty solid round of shooting on them. 9 wounds is a lot in one turn, but they are fearless, and again, because of this rallying and valiant and inspiring combo that I've got, they are a fearless unit with dash 25 nerve with everything I got going on. So even with 9 wounds, he didn't have a chance to do anything to them, but another hit or two like that and those guys are going to be gone. So here's the result of the first melee. The double charge of the knights on the spearmen. This was a really important combat. The combination of being hindered and phalanx on these knights was really paid off. The spearmen only had one wound on them, and they take 7 more, so now they're up to 8. But again, +3 to nerve, so these are a 22-24 unit. So he's only got a chance to waver them if he rolls boxcars, which he doesn't, so the knights just bounce back, and I'm fighting as normal here. So I like this combo again, and I can get a heal off on my turn. I'm not sure where I'm going to put that exactly, but they're able to take this double charge from the knights, which is pretty important for me. And on the other side of the board, the Abyssal Hunt take another 3 wounds from this double charge, the General on horse and the Foot Guard, which is not too bad. The Abyssal Hunt Knights have a 15-18 nerve, which is pretty strong, and he doesn't roll enough to waver them or anything, so they're fighting as normal. So happy about that, and I'm going to be in position to do some good charges on my turn. So the last combat in the middle here against my Spirit Walker horde, Again, his knights are hindered, so -1 to hit. He loses one of his Thunderous Charge hits. So he ends up doing 6 wounds, which is solid given the hindered. But they're fearless, so there's nothing he's going to be able to do to them there, and they bounce back. So here is the Brotherhood turn 3, and getting some charges back on him. First thing to note, because it was kind of the thing that led to the other charges, was my general charging the knights up in the top left there. So my general is strong, but he's not enough to take out a unit of knights on a front charge in 1 turn. But he can do, I'm counting on him doing at least 1 or 2 wounds, which will then take away their Thunderous Charge. And with his defense and nerve, I think I can duke it out with them for a few turns. So I'm going to deny them from being able to do any charges on me. So what I did in that case was take a side charge with my Order of Redemption into his foot guard. I'm probably going to be able to take him out and turn around anyway. And then with the Abyssal Hunt, they charged, I believe they charged the foot guard as well. And in hindsight, what I should have done is had them charge the general on horse, do that combat first, and have him overrun, assuming I kill him, overrun into the foot guard, and then I still get the double charge on the foot guard, but I would have taken him out as well. So that's not what I did though, but I'm okay. I should be able to take out that unit this turn, no problem. In the forest, my Spirit Walker Horde has countercharged the knights, and I don't think I mentioned earlier, but they do have the Brew of Strength. So they lose their Thunderous Charge from being attacked last turn, but they have Crushing Strength and 35 attacks. So pretty hitty unit, and hopefully I can do some good damage on those knights to take them out. And some good stuff happening in the center of the board as well. My Forsaken unit goes ahead and flies over and charges his Standard Bearer on the horse. And assuming I can take him out, then I can do an overrun. And I'm not sure if I'm going to hit his Mage or the Foot Guard unit in doing that. But either way, that'll be a good opportunity for me, and I'm not really in any danger of getting countercharged by anybody with my position there. And then the Martyr Horde goes ahead and takes a charge against his Foot Guard. The Martyr Horde can be pretty resilient. They're fearless and have that regen. But they don't hit that hard. I mean, they're 4+, 25 attacks, which is good. But now I'm hindered, so I'm only hitting on 5. So again, not feeling like I'm probably going to take this unit out, but maybe duking it out a couple of turns. I'm hoping I have more attrition because of my regen and all that, and can whittle them down. And no surprise here, doing a double charge on the knights. I can't refuse a flank charge with the beast, and then just in case that's not enough, because the beast is going to be hindered even though I'm hitting on the flank, I go ahead and countercharge with the Spearman into the same unit. Might have been a better idea to countercharge the other unit just so I'm hitting both units, but the knights on the left I'm not charging this turn, which is kind of dangerous because then they're untouched and they can charge and maybe get Thunderous Charge on wherever they go. So probably not a great idea to leave knights untouched like that, but I just wanted to make sure that I took the one unit out completely, and we'll see how it works out for me. So no problem on the left side there, taking out that Foot Guard regiment. I should have done what I said before, which is to charge the general on horse and then overrun into the Foot Guard. In hindsight, that would have been a good thing to remember. I think I just got excited and just wanted to take something out, so I just charged away. So took them out and repositioned a little bit there. And then my general charged the knights, and he did his job, did a few wounds to them. I think I did like 4 or 5 wounds, so it was a pretty good hit, and not going to take them out, but disorder them so that they don't have any more Thunderous Charge. And then I'm protecting my flank there so they can't charge it, my Spirit Walkers. So I forgot to point this out in the earlier picture, but my Eagles did fly over onto the Bowmen. Eagles are fast, and they do have some thunderous charge and stuff, but they're hitting on 4s and they only have I think 9 attacks. So again, they're not a unit that's going to take something out in one shot like that on a front charge. They're better for flanking and getting around behind, but that's what I'm doing here. I'm getting around behind them, charging the bows, locking down their shooting, and their bowmen aren't anything to worry about really in melee, so as long as I'm not in danger of getting charged by other things, I can just duke it out with the bowmen. The Spirit Walkers do 10 wounds on the Knights, which is awesome, so 35 attacks, and then I've got Crushing Strength on them, so they do some real damage to the Knights. Unfortunately, I didn't roll well enough on the nerve check, so they're just wavered, and Knights are headstrong, so you might be able to countercharge, but I'm happy. You can't complain about that. I mean, 10 hits in one countercharge is nothing to laugh about. And then in the center, this is another thing that I did out of order. Just getting back into the game and trying to remember stuff, but I went ahead and rolled the attacks on my Martyr Horde first against the Foot Guard, which I should not have done. I should have done the Order of the Forsaken first, because you can see here that I had charged his Standard Bearer on horse and took him out, and then overran into the Foot Guard. But I did it out of order. I did the Martyrs first, they did their attacks, and then I rolled Nerve. And then I had to back up and do the Forsaken, and they overran, and then he was cool about it. We were just playing a casual game, so he let me back up and do it the right way. But anyway, I've got a side charge on the Foot Guard with the Order of Forsaken, which are a pretty hard-hitting unit, and then the front charge from my Martyrs, and still only managed to waver them. So I'm just going to point out again, I really like his list. It looks simple and unexciting maybe on paper, but he's got 8 units with defense 5 and hitting on 3s. Half of them are mounted, half of them are on foot. And so I'm starting to feel this game of attrition here, where I'm hitting him and I'm doing stuff and I'm taking stuff out, but he still has so much more to deal with. So even in opportunities like this, I really wanted to see this unit gone, so I can then turn around and they can face the other unit of Foot Guard, or my Martyrs can turn to the right and start dealing with the Knights, helping over there, but I'm getting held up here. So we'll see how it plays out in the next couple of turns, but I was hoping to take those guys out. And another one that didn't quite do the job. I did a double charge against this one unit of Knights on the right side here. I've got the Forsaken Beast into the flank and my spears in front. The Forsaken Beast is hindered, which hurt. I think he only hit with 1 or 2 hits. And then the spears, they don't have any crushing or thunderous, so I'm wounding on 5s with them, hitting on 4s. So I just don't do enough wounds here. I think I actually got a lucky nerve check and wavered the unit, but I got to start taking some of these units out, or I'm going to lose this game of attrition here, because he's got more units than me. This is one of the things that's kind of the trade-off of taking hordes. I like hordes and infantry. Part of the problem is the Brotherhood doesn't have anything with defense 5 that is not also a hammer unit. It's all Knights. But there's nothing on foot that has defense 5 or is that resilient to be an anvil unit. And so that's why I take the hordes, because then I get the higher nerve and, with Valiant and Inspiring and all that. But I like how he's got hammer and anvil in pretty much all of his units. So just was hoping to take these Knights out, but I'm still liking my positions here and what I'm able to do. So we'll go on to the next turn. And here we are in the Kingdoms of Men turn, and he's just got some counter charges going on here. Basically everything is charging back in on the left side. He's got his General on Winged Beast and General on Horse charging back into my Abyssal Hunt Knights, my riderless horses. Need to finish painting those guys. He countercharges my General up in the top left. The Bowmen countercharge my Eagles, and the Knights. I think the Knights passed a headstrong roll here and were able to countercharge my Spirit Walker horde. Here you can see that his foot guard were in position to be able to get a flank charge on my Spirit Walkers. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think the Knights did not pass their headstrong, and so they are just stopped outside of charge there. But the foot guard getting into the flank is not going to be good. The foot guard more in the center of the table there, or they are wavered, so they're just going to have to sit put. And so even though the foot guard had to sit still for being wavered, the other knight unit that I didn't touch in my turn, this was the danger of that. So they're not wavered at all. They haven't been touched. So they do have to go through this difficult terrain through the water there in order to charge my martyrs, but they're getting a flank charge. So they'll be hitting on 4s, but they're doubling their attacks, which is either 32 or I can't remember, 36 attacks. It's a lot of dice, hitting on 4s, and with the new rules for Clash of Kings, they're only losing one of their Thunderous Charge, their Thunderous Charge 2, so they're still getting a bonus to damage, going to wound me on 3s. So that's going to be a lot of dice, and that unit already has 9 wounds on it, so I'm really hoping that they can take this hit and last one more round. That would be really clutch for me, and we'll see what happens with that. But nothing else he's doing here because the other knights were wavered. He does get off a charge with his foot guard on the far right into my Forsaken Beast. Not too worried about that. The Forsaken Beast is pretty tough, and he's again being hindered charging into the forest there. So I'm pretty confident he'll be able to last on that one, but we'll see. This is just to show that he did some damage with his magic into my Spear Horde. I think they were at 8 wounds before or something like that, or maybe 6. So he's doing some wounds here. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the Fireball and Lightnings. I feel like you have to really spam them, and maybe it's just how they're used. When you're trying to whittle down a big unit like this, they don't seem to be that effective. Maybe they're better on taking out chaff units or on units that are already pretty damaged. Just putting a few more wounds on them to get the nerve check. But he's trying to concentrate the firing on this one unit because they're really holding the flank right now. So, I understand the reason for doing it, but just a couple of wounds here, and they have such a high nerve with the Valiant and everything that I'm not too worried about it. And so you can see on the Forsaken Beast here, the foot guard being hindered, charging into the forest. It doesn't amount to much. It was bad rolling too, but only managed 1 wound on the beast. And unfortunately, what you don't see in this picture is my Martyr Horde. So that flank charge from the Knights, even with them being hindered, is just a ton of dice. So, and like I said, they were already wounded. They had 9 wounds on them. So he manages to pull off another handful of wounds. I think it was at least another 7 or 8 wounds that he ended up doing. So that really hurts to take them out. And now I feel like the center of the board has just collapsed for me. They were kind of the one unit holding the center. So these Knights coming in from this side is going to be problematic for me. So I have to think about what I'm going to be doing in my turn here. And further troubling is the Spirit Walker Horde, which you also do not see here. This was a bad turn for me. I lost 2 of my big hitty Horde infantry units, and they were my 2 fearless units, so I was counting on them sticking around another turn, at least one of the units sticking around one more turn. Again, these foot guard are hindered, charging into the forest, but on the flank, the Spirit Walkers already had a few hits on them. I think they had 6 wounds, and they're fearless. I think it's -22 or -23. So theoretically, I thought, I probably can take this hit. But you can see his Knights reposition here, so I think I misspoke earlier. The Knights did pass their headstrong and were able to charge in. So that's additional attacks that probably was what ended up sealing the deal. That Knight unit is really damaged. They have 10 wounds on them. But now I've got 2 units that are basically facing the backside of my Knights that are on the left side of the table. And so, like I said, I've just lost the center of the table, and now my force is split on each end of the table and basically surrounded by his units. So this is really, I think, a turning point in the game where I'm going to have to really get scrappy here to take some stuff out and reposition in a way that's not going to just collapse everything for me. And this is just a better angle to see what I mean by that. So I'm going to show in the next few pictures the resolution of these combats where he is hitting a few of my units here, but you can just see that his units in the forest there are looking at the rear flank of my units depending on what I do. So this is kind of dangerous. I'm feeling surrounded. So I'm gonna hopefully hold up on these few combats. I don't think I'm gonna lose any units, but I really got to figure out what I'm gonna do. His knights manage a few wounds on my general, but he's got a high nerve, so he's gonna be okay here. And this was also good for me. He did do some wounds to my Abyssal Hunt Knights here, but only managed a waver roll with their 15-18 nerve. So that's good for me. I've also, the guys on the hill there that are representing my Order of Redemption, that's an inspiring unit. So I think he did roll a rout on the first nerve check, but because they're inspiring there, reroll and they're just wavered. And the Abyssal Hunt Knights have Fury, so I can countercharge even though I'm wavered. So I'm good with that. This is a good result for me that I get to hit back now. Alright, in this picture I gotta explain what happened because I forgot to take a picture before wiping out these knights. So my Forsaken unit, the Griffins there, were to the left on the board. They were in the center of the board on the other side of the Foot Guard unit that you can kind of see in the bottom left corner. So they had flank charged the Foot Guard were wavered, and my Griffins never got countercharged. Nothing hit them, they never took a wound, so normally if they take damage you're going to be disordered now, which I'm just going to insert here. I think that's a fantastic change to the fly rule. Look, I play fly units, I love flying units, but you know, it used to be that somebody could charge you, get right in your face, do a few wounds, and then you could just fly off over them and charge the next unit or get out of harm. And I like that they changed that so that when you take damage you're disordered, and when you're disordered you lose fly and you lose nimble. So they're still speed 10, most units, but losing that fly, I think that was a great change to the rules. And it really makes flyers, you got to be much more strategic. It was easy to just kind of zip all over the board before. Now you got to think more carefully. Well, in this case, my flying unit never got hit, and so they were able to fly over these other units and charge the flank of his knights that were standing in front of my spearmen. So the spearmen got a counter charge, and then my Order of the Forsaken flying into the flank of them was easily enough to take care of those knights and get rid of them. So that's what you're seeing here. The Beast, he countercharged the Foot Guard. Again, he's a flank holder. He's a really tough unit and is going to hold that side of the board, but he doesn't have like the highest damage output. I've considered giving him the breath attack. He can have breath, I think it's breath 10, it might even be breath 15, but in melee he's got 8 attacks and he hits on 4s, so he's just never going to do that many wounds. It's usually going to be 2 or 3 at the most. If he gets a really lucky roll, maybe 5. So he's just holding the line here from these Foot Guard and helped in taking out the knights from the previous turn. But now I'm making him think, because now I'm looking at the backside of his knights. But I've got nothing on the other side of him. Like I said, he kind of took control of the center of the board. So we're going to see what happens here. The Hunter in the forest by the bowmen, he's still doing his job, just slowly hacking away at them. They have not been able to hit him back, so he's just a menace back there. And if it goes another turn or two, he's probably going to kill them. In this turn, I did another wound or 2 and wavered them, so their shooting is locked down, and I could maybe go charge something else in my next turn. Alright, so here we go in my turn, and again, forgot to take a picture before the charge here, but I did a double charge against his knights that were in the top left corner, with my Order of Redemption, and my general, who was already in their face, he just countercharged. So I was able to put enough wounds on them there and get rid of them. So that was good for me, because now I can turn around and face the other unit of knights and foot guard that are coming from the forest. That was pretty important for me. I debated on not doing the double charge there and just turning around to face them, or positioning them in some other way, but I really wanted to make sure I got those knights out of there and was able to turn around and face these other units. In the bottom left, I'm going to try to do what I should have done a few turns earlier. With my Abyssal Hunt, I'm charging his general on horse. Again, they're wavered, but they've got fury, so I can countercharge. Since he's an individual still, being on a horse, hopefully I can kill him. He's already got some wounds on him, and then I can overrun into the general on Winged Beast and get a more efficient turn out of this unit. And so I'm able to take out the general on the horse and overrun into the general on Winged Beast. I was really hoping I could take him out too. Again, this Abyssal Hunt unit, they're vicious against monsters. They've got the extra crushing strength, so they can do good work on monsters like this. And so I was hoping for that. Unfortunately, just didn't go my way. I think if he didn't have the Medallion of Life, he would have had probably close to 10 wounds at this point, and it would have been a good chance of me getting rid of him. But it was just a mistake, and not knowing the new rules for that artifact. So unfortunately, I have to bounce off there and just hold my position. I was really wanting to throw my Abyssal Hunt unit into the rest of the melee that's going to happen here with his other units coming in. Also up on the hill at the top of the picture, my Eagles charged the Bowman again. So this is, I think, the second attack that the Eagles get on the Bowman unit, and another one that I was really hoping to take care of so that I could turn my Eagles around and either at least not get a rear charge on them, but be able to move around and provide a threat area to basically this whole area of the board. But unfortunately, wasn't in the dice for this one, so I did a few wounds, but I think I just wound up wavering them, or they might have been totally fine. But so I'm facing the wrong way now, and probably going to get a rear charge on me. And sure enough, that's what happens. So in his turn, his foot guard were out of range of charging my general or my Order of Redemption, but they were in charge of doing they were in range of doing a rear charge on my Eagles. So that's going to be bye-bye Eagles. They're defense 3 and a fairly low nerve, so he could probably do a front charge and kill them. So triple charge, not even going to make him roll it, just double ones on that. With his knights, he decides to take the charge on my general, and that's a good decision. If he charges my Order of Redemption, there's a good chance that they'll stick around, and then his knights are going to be in trouble. He figures he's going to go for the general, and since the general already has wounds on him, he has a chance of taking the general out. He's going to be hindered because he came out of the forest, but still a lot of dice, and he gets one of his thunderous charge still. His general on Winged Beast in the bottom left there, of course, countercharges my Abyssal Hunt Knights. Over on the other side, he's repositioning some things here. So the foot guard were wavered last turn, but because I lost my Martyr Knights, my Martyr Horde, I didn't really have anything to hit them with and finish off that foot guard, because I had flown my Forsaken unit over to the other knights that I took out in the forest over there, which was a good decision on my part, but now I still have these other two units to deal with. The foot guard, I think they have like 12 wounds on them or something, so I just need to do a wound or two, and I'm going to get rid of them. But, this is difficult for me, because now his knights are turned around. I don't have anything except a front charge on them with my Forsaken, Order of the Forsaken, the Griffins, and I'd be landing in the difficult terrain there, so hindered. My Spearmen, because of how he's positioned, can't even see the knights, so they can't do anything. My Forsaken Beast, he's still got the foot guard in front of him, and he doesn't have the range to move over there. So this is good positioning on him, and now I'm starting to scratch my head and think, okay, what am I going to do here? Because I can't really charge anything effectively. He also threw his mages in front of the foot guard, and he left it so there's just barely not enough space for my Forsaken to fit. There was a chance, like if I had charged the foot guard and routed them, which should have been easy to do, then maybe I can move d6 forward and get out of range of the knights. That would take a pretty high roll for that, and now I definitely can't do that because I have to go through 2 individuals. Mages are easy to kill, but again, I'm going to be landing in the difficult terrain. I'm just a regiment, so it's 9 attacks hitting on 4s, and I'm losing the Thunderous Charge 2 down to Thunderous Charge 1. So to do that twice through 2 individuals and then try to overrun into the foot guard, looking back on it, it was hard decisions to make here. So I'll show you what I did in my turn, but I like his positioning here. I think it was smart. And then his foot guard on the Forsaken Beast, those 2 are just bouncing off each other each round. And further disaster is striking for me here. This is just to show that he did some, because of his positioning of the mages, the fireball actually does work well here, so maybe I need to rethink what I said earlier, but he does a couple of wounds, not much damage, but it's enough to force the nerve check. He rolls well and gets a waiver. So now my Spear Horde is wavered from the shooting, and so that just adds to my problems at this point. So in melee, again, the foot guard and the Forsaken Beast are just trading blows, but not much is happening there. I'll eventually whittle him down, but it's already getting late in the game, and so he just does a couple of wounds to the beast, no big deal. And his general manages to take out my Abyssal Hunt unit on the other side. They already had 10 wounds on them, so they're getting close to within range of their nerve already. And I'm out of range with my Inspiring now too, since my Order of Redemption Knights and my General are further up on the top side of the board. So this is really unfortunate for me. The General takes them out. His Knights against my General, he had 4 wounds before, so they only managed another 3 because they were hindered. And that I'm okay with, but now I got to think about this General in my flank here. And this picture just shows the final positioning here. His foot guard, of course, easily got rid of the Eagles, who had the rear charge on them. So his foot guard are now behind the Knights to follow up with whatever happens there. And so here we are back on my turn, and this is what I chose to do with my Order of the Forsaken, my Griffin unit. My Hunter has been harassing the Bowmen. They've got some wounds on them. I know I'm going to be hindered going into the forest, but I think, hey, maybe I can help finish them off, get them off the table, and then I can turn around and face these other units. And if I'm positioned just the right way, the Knights are going to be hindered coming into the forest, coming out of the water. But maybe I can also hinder these foot guard because they're going to have to come into the forest to get me too. My Spearmen are wavered, so they just reposition and keep my heroes behind them. And then, of course, the Beast squaring off against the foot guard. This picture, unfortunately, doesn't look much different, and this is the result of that combat. So as you can see, I did not rout the Bowmen in the forest, and instead I have to back up an inch, and now everybody's got a rear flank charge on me, and those Griffins are going to go bye-bye. Not good for me. So you can see how things are getting worse here. I neglected again to take a picture of what happened on the left side of the board. I countercharged the Knights that were in my face over there, took them out, no problem. But then I'm left exposed to the General that he has and the other foot guard unit coming in. So this is kind of where we just basically called the game. And we played out a few more rolls here, but I could kind of see the writing on the wall. I think we were actually, this is turn 6, and we ended up rolling for turn 7 and got it. But there's really not much I can do here. So I'm just going to finish here with some comments about the game. This, again, was just a really fun game. You can see early on in the game, the first couple of rounds, I thought I was really well positioned. I was hitting some stuff pretty hard, took out a few units pretty quickly, and just really felt like, man, I got this in the bag. I got this game. but this was a game of attrition. So what I said at the beginning of the video was, and actually I'm going to refer to Nick Williams has a blog that he wrote recently about magic items, and I think it's spot on. He talks about how people tend to overspend on magic items, and I think, I've got a few points in some magic items, and even though mine is probably only 5 to 7% points wise that I'm spending on artifacts out of my total points, I still feel like it's probably too much, and I'm always thinking, if I got rid of these artifacts, could I take a whole nother unit of something, and what would it be? And would that be more effective than the little bit that these artifacts are adding? So that's something I'm constantly weighing with, and that's what Nick Williams was talking about. And he was also discussing the combinations and which ones are more useful and how to use them. But the general idea is we end up spending a lot of points, a lot of us, on the big creatures like the Forsaken Beast, get them upgrades. We spend a lot of points on magic items. My opponent's list here was very simple. He just had a lot of strong units. There's none of the knights or the infantry units had any magic items. None of the bowmen, nothing. He had a couple of mages with a couple of small point items, and that was it. The general had the medallion again, but that was it. So this became a game of attrition. Even though I hit first on many things and I hit hard, there was still so much more to handle, so many more units to deal with. And when my hordes collapsed in the center of the board, I think that was the turning point of the game, where I'm now surrounded by units on either side of the board, and I don't have enough units to answer back. So I have more expensive units that are these big horde blocks, and if they fall, I'm in trouble. So, but it was an extremely fun game, really good opponent. I just liked the simplicity of his list, and he used it well. He protected his flanks with the foot guard. He got some good charges off and that sort of thing. So just really fun list. I do really like the Clash of Kings 2018. I think the changes to the rules are really good. Even the ones that hurt me, I think, bring good balance to the game. And I think the tweaks to the magic items are good. Some of the new spells are very interesting. The new items are really cool. I love for the Brotherhood this upgrade of inspiring also being valiant. And I love the Martyr's Prayer. I would never use the Devoted before. They're like one of the worst casters in the game. They're not inspiring. They just kind of suck. Magic wasn't the strong point of the Brotherhood, and it still isn't. But with the Martyr's Prayer and adding the inspiring and valiant, I think that these guys are going to become a regular part of my list, using the Griffin banner and getting the Martyr's Prayer. It just made the spearmen that I used here, it made them incredibly resilient. If I hadn't gotten a flank charge from knights on my Martyr Horde, they would have stuck around several more turns. I don't know many units that can stand up to a flank charge from knights. So all in all, great game. Hope to do it again soon. And I would love to hear if you guys have any comments or advice to share in terms of tactics or list building or anything like that. Cheers.